What's up? How you doing? How you been? How you mama them? Welcome back to Club AJ, the channel where the vibes don't stop. You already know what it is. So, I watched The Crash, and I don't know how to feel about it. But we about to talk about it. If you haven't seen the movie, there's a movie on Netflix called The Crash. Right now, it's actually #1 movie on Netflix. Spoiler, 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 spoiler. I don't want to hear it. I am about to spoil the crap out this movie. So go watch the movie if you haven't watched it, if you want to watch it. It is just a documentary, but it's a good documentary. Apparently, folks had already heard of this story before watching the movie, and I never heard this story. So this was all news to me. But the movie is about, it's about this really bad crash, okay? It was a really bad car crash. But this crash, I ain't never seen no crash like this. All right, so I'm gonna be talking to y'all like y'all watched the movie, but I'm going to give the setup just in case somebody's here don't want to watch the movie. So there's 3 people in the crash, right? And the girl that was driving, her name's Mackenzie. She ends up surviving. The 2 boys that was with her die, okay? And they're trying to get her convicted, right? It doesn't make sense. Even after watching the movie, this case doesn't make sense to me. And that's why I wanted to make a video, because it's like, I'm not on the side that everybody would think I'm on. Like, of course she should be serving time, but murder, they did not have enough evidence. They had no, beyond a reasonable doubt, her representation was ass, okay? But there's 3 people in the car. She ends up surviving. She was driving. She had nothing in her system, but they still charged her with 2 counts of murder because she drove this vehicle into a wall at 90 miles per hour. 90 miles, 97 something miles per hour. That just alone, that is some crazy. That's crazy. That's another thing. I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying to go as the movie progressed. But the fact that she did this completely sober, it doesn't make sense to me. That's crazy. I could never. She's been driving high and on mushrooms for a big portion of her life, right? So everybody have admitted that she knows how to drive high on multiple drugs. And you telling me she decided to drive into a wall completely sober? Crazy. Crazy. It just that it's a couple things in this case bothered me. We're gonna talk about it. But that's the movie. Right? They're trying to prove that she did it because there was no skid marks. That was one big thing. There shows no evidence of her trying to stop the car, and she ran into a wall at 97 miles per hour. All right. Let's talk about Mackenzie. Okay, Mackenzie, I can't even, it's like everything you want to feel about Mackenzie, I feel it, but then I point it to the parents. Every piece of every feeling I had about every decision she made in this movie, I felt it towards her, but then I redirected it towards the parents. So these parents, I don't want to say they're the worst parents, but they are some ass parents, bro. She said 17, shawty. She's 17. They said she seemed mature enough. First of all, what did they see? Because what we saw on this movie, it wasn't all of her life, but what we saw wasn't anything showing that she was mature enough to be living on her own with a grown man. But they said that they felt that she was mature enough to live on her own. So they let her live on her own. Okay, that's when I was like, okay, you tripping. Your 17-year-old daughter? Man, and the way they were describing this relationship, I was like, bro, who parents are these, man? Oh, man, they were just so cute. I mean, they were going to get married. They just do everything together, and they were just so sweet together. She's 17. Okay, so I understand it's different types of parenting. So, they the chill parents. I was getting a picture of what type of parents they was the whole movie. And it's an ugly picture. It's an ugly picture. Whatever. Okay, parents do crazy stuff like that all the time, right? They trusted their daughter, even though their daughter had about 20 disciplinary reports from the school. It's so hard to criticize parenting because you learn bad parenting from bad parenting. What model do you have to be a parent? Because this is crazy to me. Multiple disciplinary reports on her, and you still keep giving her everything. You don't keep an eye on her. It's crazy. But we're moving on. We're going to get to the notes in the order I took them. Okay, we already talked about the skid marks. There were no skid marks. That was what kind of sent this into, okay, we have to investigate deeper than an accident. That's what we open up and we know. And we're like, okay, that means she didn't try to stop. The next thing I got is after the crash. After the crash, the detective comes on the scene and he's explaining or describing how he found the crime scene. They said that the boys, it was the 2 boys, Davion and Dominic, or Dom. One was in the back seat, one was in the front seat. He said he found them lying on top of each other in the front seat, it was a crazy detail for me because you can't conceptualize what happens in a car when it crashes into a wall. It comes to a sudden stop at 90 miles per hour into a wall. It's just trying to conceptualize how their bodies ended up like that after a sudden stop. And I know, I'm sure the car was split in half, man. But they were on top of each other in the front seat, dead on action, DOA. Mackenzie, he described her being, her head, they found her with her head under the dashboard. And this was my first time pausing the movie and being like, okay, what? How? I was in my car watching it, so I was trying to understand. I was looking at my dashboard, and I'm confused because so there's a table right here, right? So her head was either crunched up under the dashboard, right? So her head was under the dashboard, or she was completely like under the dashboard, gang. Like, that's one hell of a hit, man. That you knocked her head under the dashboard. Yeah, that's a crazy crash. So now we're after the crash. Okay, we're after the crash. We found the body. She's in the hospital. Unresponsive. Tubes and stuff, right? So we fast forward. The police really wants to talk to Mackenzie, but she's unconscious. They really want to talk to her because they think that she did it on purpose. And now they're going to evaluate that the car didn't malfunction, and then they collect something known as the black box. And this black box is what they built their entire case on. They built their case on this black box. So this black box, it reports that in the last whatever seconds, she was all gas, no brakes. No brakes. 100% gas, no brakes. Nothing. They was like, okay, so this doesn't make sense to us. That's understandable. As a detective, it wouldn't make sense to me. There's no skid mark. There was no evidence of anything in her system. So the detective, he's like, okay, we got to figure it out. We got to, because I don't think this was an accident, so we got to talk to Mackenzie. We got to talk to Mackenzie. So she wakes up, right? And the first thing she does is a brand deal, gang. I can't make this shit up. She does a brand deal. Okay, so off the jump, she is already showing no remorse. So it's hard for the viewers to say that she feels bad. That she feels bad for killing two people. And her mom responds to the brand deal as well, because it happens like on Instagram or something. She's like, blasey, this is a great opportunity. She was in a tragic accident, and it's harder for her than for anyone else. So now we're seeing where her ignorance comes from, where her lack of reality, of tuning into what's going on. So it's like I said in the beginning, everything I felt towards Mackenzie, I redirected it towards her parents. Your daughter just killed two people. So two mothers are without their children because of your daughter's action, whether it was an accident or not. You find it a good time to go close some brand deals. And not only that, you're not even connecting the fact that it may be harder for the other parents who don't have their child than it is for you. It shows where she gets it from. Okay, so that's the first thing she does when she wakes up. So the viewers, the audience, the people who are watching the movie is already off of her. We're already off of her. We like, man, come on, Sam, man, watch out, bro. You have no remorse. And I was there with y'all. And it's not that I do think she had a lack of remorse. She did not care. She did not really show that she was sad. But as the movie progressed, I changed how I looked at things. Okay, so she does the brand deal. That's where we at. Once she gets out the hospital, we start seeing her showing some signs of remorse. She starts showing she's crying, she's sad, she's missing Dom. That's her boyfriend. I don't know if I mentioned that. But I even wrote it down, like, even when she's showing her remorse, she's not showing her remorse, again. Like, they do this little voodoo trick and like trying to speak to Dom, all right? And he was like, Dom, are you here? And she started crying or whatever. But amidst her crying, she checks the camera, fix her hair, and go back to crying. May not be anything to a lot of people, but we live in a social society. We live in a society where we can pick up on cues. That is not a sign of, I cannot believe I lost the love of my life. I cannot believe not only that, I killed the love of my life. All right, moving on. Now it's time for her to be treated as a suspect, okay? Based off of the black box and her toxic relationship with Dom, they make an arrest. They arrest Mackenzie for 2 counts of murder. She kept saying that they have no evidence. The prosecutor, they have no evidence, right? I was there with them. I was there. They have no actual evidence to convict this child of murder in 2 counts. They don't have evidence that this was intentionally done. But they put in a call. They take her to the to the jail, and people making a big deal about these bracelets. This really showed her age. It shows you like they're arresting a child. She gets in there and she's like, I can't keep my bracelets on. Like they're putting her in jail. Like they you gotta strip. You know that. You gotta strip. You gotta come out of everything. They gotta search you. She's like, I can't keep these bracelets. And I was like, this girl really don't know what she just did. She doesn't know what's going on. There's only so much you can blame on her being evil. She genuinely has no idea the consequences of the actions, whether it was an accident or not. She has no idea of the consequences, right? So I didn't really make a big deal about the bracelets. It was really stupid for her to ask that, but she's 17. She gets in jail, and now we're going to the trial. We're making it to the trial because this is what I want to talk about. She's on trial for 2 counts of murder. Mackenzie gets a choice of a bench trial, which is just to a judge, appealing just to a judge, or a jury trial, right? She chooses a bench trial. And right there, I knew she was going to lose the case. To me, it seemed like this would have been the best case to try with a jury. Because court is a game. You have to convince the 12 people that's sitting there that this is a pot. All he had to do, like, her representation was ass. They shouldn't even allow her to do a bench trial, because now you have to appeal to one final boss, one educated, overly educated, which you would argue that the judge is more educated than the lawyers that are presenting, right? So you're arguing to one educated person where you could have had 12 people with a, what I think you have to have a 5th grade education to be in a jury. And then you get to choose the jury. So all Mackenzie's representation had to do was convince these 12 people that they don't have enough evidence to send her to jail for murder. But no, they chose a bench trial. They're trying this case based off of very little evidence. They have the black box. Very suspicious. And I'm not saying that the prosecution did not have a good case. They had a case enough to try Mackenzie. What I am saying is that the defense had more than enough to paint doubt, so to show that there is enough doubt to not convict Mackenzie. Like, the defense had the same evidence that the prosecution had. Take the text, for instance. Later on, we find out that the prosecution used this evidence wrong, but the prosecution had evidence that Mackenzie has tried to wreck the car with Dom in it before. The defense had the same evidence. They have access to each other's evidence. This is why I say ass representation. There's no way that Mackenzie's representation did not catch they were using that evidence wrong. The evidence did not show that Mackenzie tried to run Dom off the road. It showed that Dom was trying to wreck the car with Mackenzie in the car. That's one area where they could have pushed for there to be more doubt. The other area is the black box. The black box is what the prosecution's case relies on, right? So you have to, as a lawyer, as representation, you have to try to shed some type of doubt on that. So she has all gas, no brakes on the black box. They have it to where they can see that she went into neutral and went back into dry in like the last 3 seconds or 5 seconds before the crash. Right away, as Mackenzie's lawyer, I'm going to use all I have to paint doubt. I would have introduced the idea of that they were racing. They were drag racing. You're on trial for her intent, right? You're trying to get them to have doubt that she wasn't intending for this to happen. They were drag racing. They were racing. And she didn't know that the wall was coming up. There's anything that could have happened. You have the evidence of her slipper being stuck to the floor. They have no proof that that wasn't contribution to the crash. I'm going to introduce as much as I can to have, that is why I said they should have had a jury. Because there was enough for him to work with to convince a jury they don't have, beyond a reasonable doubt, they cannot convict this girl. He had to try to paint doubt about this black box. The prosecution did not bring up the neutral drive neutral thing. For me, that seems important. You have evidence of what, because apparently Mackenzie can't remember after she turned the street. To me, she did not help her case. She did not help her case in the slightest. Every time she was asked, she can remember up until turning on the street. This is really not helping her case. It's really not helping her case. I genuinely feel like she remembered something, but it was something that wasn't going to help her case. I feel like her lawyer told her to just, after you turn, you don't remember. You don't recall. I'm not saying that she didn't do it. I'm not saying... She should definitely be serving time. She should be serving time for recklessness. I believe that the parents should be serving time. But to be charged for 2 counts of murder, which is 15, she had to serve concurrent sentences, 15 years to life. I think if she had better representation, that she would not have been No. I'm glad that the judge found some type of leniency in not making her serve them consecutively, because that would have been 30 years for something that they had no proof of. Now, if that was my kids that she killed, I would want her to get the death penalty. I understand that. That is being human. That's being a parent. That's being a good parent who loves their children. You want some type of retribution. But in court, the victim's pain is always going to be, like, they're always going to think about the victim's pain. They're always going to want to try to, tend to the victim's pain. So her getting years for recklessness would have been that. They want her dead. I know I would. It was really crazy. They were on her side at first. They could have been mushrooms in her system. They could have been alcohol. They could have been heroin. They could have been all types of drugs in her system. I still would have wanted her in jail. I do not care. I would have never been on her side. You killed my... I know I'm going to be mad at my children for getting in the car with her, but I'm going to be mad I don't care. You killed my children. So she should have served time. But I don't believe, there's no way she got 2 counts of murder with the evidence they had. And the fact that even in the interview, she's like, if we wouldn't have crashed, if she would have still been here, we would have got married. In what life? Like, it really shows you her state of mind. She really thought that they still would have been married, even though Dom it seemed like she didn't want to be there. They had her relationship with Dom. They had the black box. That's the only evidence they had. It's not even proof to which that she did this on purpose. This is evidence to which supports that she intended that for this to happen. And I don't believe that they had enough evidence. To prove intent, if you had somebody like Denny Crane, you wouldn't have got convicted. It's a game. It's a game. You just got to convince these 12 people that they don't have enough evidence. It could have been a medical emergency that they cannot account for. That's another thing. I wish they would have asked the friends, because they said that they got up at 5 a.m. to leave. Okay, that's odd. Even the friends thought that was odd. So, like, I would have dug into that a little more. Why were they leaving in the first place at 5 a.m.? Davion was supposed to ride with somebody else. Davion was not supposed to be in the car. But she allowed Davion to get in the car with them. That right there kind of tells me that she didn't really plan to kill them right there. When she left the house, it wasn't her intent to run into that wall. So that means when she got in the car, between the house and turning the street, she had to have decided, I'm going to kill us. They said that she could not have had a medical emergency that allowed her to control the car. I'm with her there. I'm with them there. I'm going to let this car pass. She was able to control the car on a road that isn't just straight. The neutral still bothers me. I want to know, what was this? They want to say that it was the boys trying to, if they was trying to get out, you would have seen some type of swerving. You would have seen them trying to fuck with the wheel. But at the end of the day, there's still possibilities that they were racing, didn't know that wall was coming up. Yes, he's from there. Maybe they've taken that job all the time. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. You don't know. We don't know. That's the point. We don't know. They had enough to convict her, but I feel like it's because she had ass representation. If she had better representation, I'm going to keep saying that, she would not have been convicted. She would have been convicted for recklessness and maybe some more stuff, but not 2 counts of murder. She's going to jail. She killed 2 people. She's going to jail. Recklessly driving. Now, it's sad that at 17 she has to learn this lesson because she has some parenting that never told her no, that never slapped her on the wrist. It's sad that that's the case, but you're going to jail. You're learning today. But 2 counts of murder, I obviously could never feel what those parents are feeling that lost their kids. I couldn't feel it. I know they want some type of retribution. That's what the court system is also there for, to provide some type of retribution for the victims. So something needed to be done. I'm sure they don't believe that 15 years was enough. I applaud the detective for digging into this case, because if I was a detective, I would have did exactly what he did. He wanted to prove that Mackenzie was the type of person to intentionally run this car into this wall and kill Dom. And he did that. He did a great job at doing that. I applaud him. But I just feel like her representation did an ass job. It's showing how much doubt. Once they chose bench trial, I don't think that it would have went any other way. So the case went as it should have went, but it didn't go as it could have went. You feel me? That's all. I wanted to talk about it, guys. There's a couple other things I wrote down. Like right here, I got the little sister. Davion's little sister was the smartest one and the smartest character. She was saying the most emotionally intelligent things, and there's adults here. Like, it's really crazy. The parents pissed me smooth off the whole time. But that's it, y'all. I gotta stop talking about it, because every time I start talking about it, I get into it, because it don't make sense to me. It don't make sense that it happened in the first place, that they were in this predicament, but it also just didn't make sense that it was decided like that. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think? Y'all watched it. I assume y'all watched it. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below. Y'all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I ain't got no church announcements today, so as always, be good, be blessed, do your worst, do your best. Peace!